Hi everyone, welcome to TDA Talks. I recently sat down with Jen Reid, who is a doctor from the UK and was the medic on our 2019 Tour d'Afrique. We had a good conversation. She had some great tips for future riders and future medics, and I hope you enjoy this episode.
Hi, Jen. Thanks for being here today on TDA Talks. um,
Hi.
so maybe we can start if you could just tell everyone who you are, where you're from, and what tours you've done with us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jen. I'm a doctor working in Scotland in the Scottish borders. And last year I was lucky enough to do the 2019 Tour d'Afrique, cycling from Cairo to Cape Town.
Great. I see you have your crew t-shirt on right now.
I do. Very proud. Yeah. And this is my expedition bike in the background. It's never very far from me.
So that's the one you had in Africa last year?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to read, you had a nice quote in your blog. You said, one of my favorite moments was when we reached Western Cape. I sat in the sunshine on the beach cooking 120 tortillas on a gas hob while watching dolphins jump in the Atlantic waves. So it's nice. Do you have any other memorable moments from that trip?
Yeah, I think that quote pretty much sums up a TDA tour for me, and I really did love every day. I think yeah, some favorite moments are definitely watching the stars from my tent, and I've been to Namibia a few times, and I'm always in complete awe of the landscape there and the animals. It's an incredible country, and experiencing some new countries like cycling through Sudan was very special, and incredible food there too, and really friendly people and very welcoming country. But I think as the medic, the rewarding thing for me is watching the riders achieving things that they didn't think they could do, and really overcoming injuries and mental challenges. I think definitely one of my highlights was one of the riders who had quite a serious accident about halfway through the tour, and we were quite in the middle of nowhere, really, quite far from big medical centres, and I had to make some big decisions as a medic, and that was challenging for me as well. So he bounced back from his quite serious injuries and came back and joined us and crossed the line in Cape Town, and that will always be a very rewarding thing as a medic to see. So.
What were some of the specific injuries or like ailments you saw from people on the trip?
Well, so specific to a cycling expedition, there's often a lot of saddle sore, and people will probably be annoyed at how often they hear about saddle sore and looking after yourself and hygiene. But saddle sore potentially is quite an expedition-ending injury, if you like, if you don't try and catch it early and look after yourself. If you get an infection down there, it's very, very hard to treat and hard to get you back on your bike if it's so painful. So I would really recommend some good like barrier creams. There's a really good one sold in the UK called Sudocrem, and I'm sure there's equivalents around the world. A really great barrier cream for if you feel you're developing a blister hotspot, just to keep everything protected down there. And then some really good blister plasters in good supply to last you all the months of expedition. And it can really protect the skin on your feet if you're walking about, but also if you're getting saddle sore. And that is one of the common things on expedition. The other thing people often think about is the traumas associated with having a fall from your bike, which sadly do happen, especially if we're on roads that are uneven or cycling on sandy, grit roads or something. And we did have to deal with quite a few little wounds, and in environments where you're constantly being hit with dust and maybe you're not able to shower every few days or anything. Wound care is really important, and that was a big bulk of my job, was making sure people were able to look after their wounds so we don't have to deal with a much more serious infection that could potentially make you very unwell and potentially mean you have to get home. So wound care is important, and when we come on to chatting about kit, there's some good bits of kit that you can bring from your home countries that will help on a long expedition to help with wounds. But the other thing is, on a long expedition like the Tour d'Afrique or the South American Epic, chronic things can crop up, and I ended up taking on the role of almost like a family doctor, a GP, because over a few months you might get a problem that you've had before, and nothing to do with cycling on the bicycle.
Right.
And that's what I love about my role as the medic. Anything can happen in any place at any time. But there is also things about preparing for the expedition that can help avoid some chronic things cropping up and being a problem when we're literally in the middle of nowhere in the bush. So.
Yeah, and just going back to what you're saying about keeping wounds clean, like it's one of those things that I learned, but a lot of people unfortunately learn the hard way, is you just assume that your little cut or mosquito bite is going to react the same way it does when you're at home, right? But when you're not able to shower as regularly and you're sleeping outdoors, you can get infections and things can go bad pretty quickly, right?
Absolutely right. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's really important to ask the medic if you're needing advice, even about a tiny wee wound, because something really small like a bite can unfortunately turn into something a bit more serious quite quickly in more extreme environments. And good dressings are important. And actually I found on the Tour d'Afrique, they're quite hard to get hold of, like big adhesive dressings. We ended up making a lot of makeshift things with swabs and lots of tape. But if you can bring some big adhesive dressings along, and I don't mean like a finger plaster, I mean something that's going to deal with a wound that you've got from falling off your bike on your knee or something, that will really help, because if we can stick it down and prevent the dust getting in, you can get back on your bike with that wound usually, and it means that it keeps it clean. So good bit for the kit list is to bring some good dressings along, and it means that you're not using all the medic supplies for when we've got a bit more serious wounds to deal with as well. So.
Great. And so you mentioned some of the common injuries. Did you, what about things like sore knees, sore backs, those sort of things? Did you have much dealing with that on the tour?
Yeah, we did, and we had some great people in our expedition team. Some of the team did some yoga every morning and some stretching and things, and that really helps. And if you can read up on some things like that before the expedition, and you can try and get a wee group doing some stretching after your cycles each day as well, that will help. You're going to be cycling lots more miles than you've probably ever done before. So trying to prepare your body for that is really important, but also preparing your mind that you are going to have muscle aches and strains and things like that, and being sensible, chatting to the medic about when it's good to maybe take a rest from the bike, when you might need a bit of physio, or we did a bit of taping for some people's knees and Achilles and things, and that seemed to help. So there's lots of things we can do to keep you going on the expedition. There's definitely lots you can do before an expedition to help prepare, and I think you'll enjoy it a lot more if you come prepared. I think firstly, mentally preparing. There will be days when you're absolutely exhausted, you've cycled up a hill you never thought you'd be able to cycle up, you know, it's maybe day 50 of cycling with a few rest days in between, and just trying to mentally prepare for how you're going to deal with that, and some things that you might bring, like tiny luxuries or, you know, photographs, things that are going to help you when you're feeling really like you've hit a wall on the expedition. And once you get over that wall, the feeling will be great, and there'll be lows, but there'll be highs as well. I think physically, the most important thing is if you've got a pre-existing medical condition or a chronic condition, it's telling your GP or your physician early that you're wanting to do an expedition. And I think liaising with TDA and the tour medic about what's appropriate, and if they think it's possible for you to come on expedition. It would take a lot for me to say no to someone coming, but if you ask early enough, then we can chat about it and try and work a plan. Eating your regular medications, making sure you're going to have enough, because I can tell you that finding medications when we're going through some of these quite remote places is very tricky sometimes. And it would make my life as medic a lot easier if you have enough of your regular medication with you, whether that be, you know, a tablet that you take or something that you take now and again, but you need a store of. That's really great.
Any other preparation tips?
Getting your vaccinations early, making sure you're all up to date with those, and having a list of what you've had, and also and making sure you've got anything like a yellow fever card with you in a very organized place. You know, we're packing bags every day, you're packing up your tent, you're packing your kit. We might be going through quite extreme weather, sandstorms, everything. So having some kind of little folder where you've got your important documents handy. It's often on border crossings that you need all these bits of paper, and it's really important to be organized with those. I have one more thing to say to future participants as well, is get your teeth checked before expedition.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I'm not a dentist, and I can probably patch up something in an emergency till we get to a more definitive center, but it would help everyone out on expedition if you get those cavities checked before you go. Your diet can change on expedition. You might be drinking more sugary drinks, and if you get a cavity and have to spend your valuable rest day, going to a dentist in somewhere very unknown, it's a stressful and potentially expensive experience, and much easier if you get a good dental check before you go on expedition.
Well, let's switch gears. You were telling me earlier that you're back home in Scotland. You were in Scandinavia somewhere. I forget. Sweden, was it?
Yeah, I was living in Sweden for a year. Yeah. And
so you're back at your local hospital. Can you tell me a bit about the work you're doing right now?
Yeah, I'm working in the Scottish Borders, which is just close to the border with England. It's a beautiful part of Scotland, lots of hills. We have great mountain biking around here. So unfortunately, there are quite a lot of mountain biking injuries coming into the hospital, but it's a beautiful place to live. Lots of farming around here, and some beautiful lochs for swimming. And I've just bought a paddle board, so I'm really enjoying that.
Well, you have the blog you wrote for our site, and I noticed on your Instagram feed you have some other hobbies other than your training as a doctor. So you make some art, you do some painting, and you do rowing. Did you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I used to be a rower before I really took up cycling. I rowed a lot at university, and rowed a bit with the team training in Scotland. So yeah, rowing is great fun, and a lot of similarities to a TDA tour. Lots of getting up with the sunrise and training in whatever the weather. So I think it equipped me well for doing an expedition, and the sense of being in a team as well, a staff team and an expedition team, and just mucking in with everything. So yeah, rowing was great. And then when I retired from my rowing, I switched to cycling, and I love cycling in Scotland. Yeah.
Do you have any advice for medics who might be interested in working on an expedition like the one you did with us? Anything that you learned?
The expedition suited me really well. I love cycling. I love exploring the world, and the bike is such a phenomenal way for anyone to see different cultures. And you cycle through things you've never seen before, and you get to experience really the new villages and people and foods. It is a phenomenal experience. I think as a medic, it can be a daunting idea. You're in the middle of nowhere. Probably I had an experience where I was treating someone quite unwell in their tent, and an elephant just walked past, and at that moment you think, gosh, I really am in the middle of the bush here, and I'm making decisions that at home I might run by a colleague, or I probably have something, a protocol I can look up. And it's an amazing experience as a medic, because you get to really use your brain, and you're constantly making decisions, but you're weighing up decisions with lots of new factors that you've never thought about. Like, is it safe to drive at night on the road? Is that elephant there causing more of a problem than this injury I'm dealing with? You're constantly weighing up risks, and I love that decision making, but it's something that you have to think about before you go. And I think the other thing for medics, but also for future participants, is it's more the mental side of an expedition, which surprised me. Not that people were mentally unwell, but that mental well-being on an expedition is a really important factor. And we all tend to lead such busy lives. We're constantly rushing about, and suddenly you're on an expedition where you have time to think, and you have time to ruminate and take in all the the wonders that you're seeing, the stars and the landscape. And that just makes some people think a bit more than they've ever done before about more existential things and questions. And as a man, I became a person that people could confide in and trust and listen to. And that for me was such a privilege. But it was a surprising role that I hadn't really thought would happen on expedition.
You're getting a master's in global health in Sweden, is that right?
Yeah, I was studying for master's this year in global health at the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, which was really great living over there, and yeah, an amazing opportunity. And it's really never been more relevant than at the moment. Working a wee bit with Edinburgh University at the moment, running some undergraduate courses in global health, and yeah, it's just so relevant and so good to start discussing with the pandemic how we can deal with these things in the future.
I guess what we're in September, so you would have been somewhere in, I don't know, Peru or Bolivia or something by now. So you were supposed to be the medic for the South American Epic, and fingers crossed, we're hoping to run that trip next year. But I hope to see you on some expeditions again, and we're very much looking forward to when we can run them again. But obviously, we'll just wait and see and hope for the best for next year. Well, that's great. I really appreciate it. I know you just worked all day and you came home and did this chat, so it's much appreciated and nice to hear from you, and hopefully we see you again soon.
Yeah, and good luck to everyone preparing for an expedition in the future. Hopefully we can all enjoy our bikes soon. So.
Yes. Thanks so much, Jen. Have a great evening.
That's it for this episode of TDA Talks. Thanks for listening. If you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can be alerted for future episodes. Thank you.